Okay, getting started, you were supposed to fill in the definitions and the postulates, so we're just going to quickly go through those. A point in the diagram is going to be represented with a capital letter, so you want to make sure you know how to draw that. A line, very crucial, it can be drawn with two capital letters or a lowercase single letter, and for a line it will always have arrows on the end, so that's very important. That's the difference between a line and a line segment. A plane is going to be the rectangles that you see in the diagrams. It can be represented for a name with three points that are on there. You have to make sure you're using a point. So that means that you have those dots next to them that you're using. Or there's one capital letter that doesn't have any points next to it, and that's going to represent a plane. Remember, a line segment is different than a line. This one has arrows, this one does not. This is called a line segment. You can call it either line segment AB or BA. You can reverse the order. A ray has an endpoint and extends in one direction. It is very crucial that you write this correctly. There is only one way to write a ray. The endpoint has to be on the left side because when you draw your arrow above there, it has to be indicating the endpoint. And then you want to make sure you have your second point on there to show what direction it's going. The last one on there is opposite rays. And opposite rays, you're going to name them the same way as a ray, but an opposite ray will share an endpoint. So they will always form a line because they'll go in opposite directions. So having that shared endpoint, they'll create a line. Okay, then on the second page, very quickly, they had postulates. So the first one was that through any 2 points you can create a line. For the second one was that when you have two lines intersecting, they will intersect at only 1 point. The next one was that if you have two planes that intersect, they will intersect at exactly 1 line. And then last, through any 3 non-collinear points, you have exactly 1 plane. Okay, the most crucial thing from this is there's a lot of vocab in this section, and it is very, very important that you know how to write and name points, planes, line segments, lines. So you want to make sure you're brushing up on that vocab and know that particular piece. So that's what we're going to practice on these first questions. On this first one, what are 2 other ways to name line QT? Well, first I locate, here's line QT. You can name a line with using any 2 points, and you can also reverse them. So another way to name it would just be saying line TQ, just reversing that order. Another 2 sets of points would be line QN or line NT. Those are all the same. The last way is just using the lowercase single letter. So I could just say line M. Alright, 2 other ways to name line P, plane P. Remember, the plane is the rectangle, so I can use any 3 points that are on there. So plane RQV, I could say RSV, I could say RQS, any 3 points that lie on this plane. Now the 2 points that do not lie on the plane are T and N, and I would not be able to use that for the name because they are not on the plane. So pay attention to what you're using. What are the names of 3 collinear points? So collinear means that they are going to create a line. So that would be points RQS. The second question says, what are the names of 4 coplanar points? Coplanar means they're all on the same plane. So that would be points R, Q, S, and V. Okay, and then I want you to pause the video and try the got it portion. 1A, what are 2 other ways to name line RS? Excuse me. You could say line RQ. You could say, that should say line QS. You could say the reverse of any of those. Line SQ, line QR, line SR. So there's lots of combinations. What are 2 more ways to name plane P? We named a couple, but there's lots of combinations. So RQS, SQV, VQR, any of those combinations using 3 points on the plane. So you could not use L, you could not use P, and you could not use T or N. Excuse me. What are names of 3 other collinear points? So we already named 1 set. Another set would be this line, so I could use N, Q, and T. And then last, what are 2 points that are not coplanar with points R, S, and V? All of those points lie on this plane. So we already mentioned these 2 points, N and T, are not coplanar. Okay, very important stuff. Even though it's introductory, you want to make sure you know how to name that stuff. Okay, now we're going to talk about segments and rays. So how can you name some segments in the figure right? There's all kinds of them. One is, you could say DF, you could say EF, you could say DF, and then you could also do any direction of the other way. So FD, FE, and ED. So there's actually 6 different ways you could say that. What are the names of the rays in the figure? Excuse me. You could say DE, which is the same as DF. You could say ED, which is in the opposite direction. You could say EF, going that direction. You could say FD. You could go all the way around. There are a lot of combinations for those rays. Which of the rays in part B are opposite rays? There's only one set. That is ED and EF. Reason being is because they have to share an endpoint and they have to go in opposite directions, hence the name opposite rays. So that means that ED and EF are the only way you're going to get that opposite direction. Okay, I want you to pause the video and try the got it question. In the got it question, it's asking EF and FE form a line. Are they opposite rays? They may form a line, but they're not opposite rays because you have to have the same endpoint. So if I'm starting at EF and going this way as a ray, an opposite ray also has to start at E and go the opposite direction. Okay, so that's why they are not opposite rays. All right, moving on. Each surface of the box at the right represents part of a plane. What's the intersection of the plane ADC and plane BFG? So I try and find them. So it might help to use different colors. So here is ADC on top. And then the plane BFG is the one that you see on the right. 2 planes will always intersect at a line. So I know that these 2 planes will intersect where they're touching, which would be this line formed at BC. Excuse me. I got a tickle in my throat. Okay, pause the video and try the got it question. Okay, in the got it question, what are the names of 2 planes that intersect BF? So I need to come find where BF is, and that is over here. So 2 planes that touch that same edge. So that could say plane EAB, which would be this front plane, and the one to the right, so plane BCG. Now you may have the same planes as me, the front and the right, but you may have named them different. That is perfectly fine. Okay? Why do you only need to find 2 common points to name the intersection of 2 distinct planes? Well, the reason being is because in Postulate 1.1 it says that a line lies between 2 points. So if I have 2 points, then I always know a line will cross through there, which means that that's where those planes are going to be intersecting at. Okay, very last question. Using the figure at the right, what plane contains N, P, and Q? Well, when I look at those points, I have shaded in the bottom portion, so that bottom plane. I shaded that plane, so that bottom one would be your plane. Then it asks what plane contains J, M, and Q. That's more of a diagonal plane, so you're just going to force in a rectangle sloping downwards, if you will. Okay, once again, a little bit longer of a lesson because there's so much information in terms of vocab. So you want to make sure you A, know the difference between points, planes, lines, line segments, rays, etc. And then also, do you know how to write them? Because that is so crucial that we'll keep using.